Chapter 1 Arrival Before the stormy have never believed that certain places are born already holding a story within them, waiting patiently for the final page to be written. Yet that was before I set foot on the lonely strip of land known as Ebon Tide, and before I saw the house that bore its name. A man may go through life without once sensing that something unseen is watching, listening. But at Ebon Tide House, that feeling came over me at once. The sea lay restless when I arrived, the cold wind smelling of iron and brine. The sky was already turning storm gray, the horizon swallowed by mist. Only a narrow causeway connected the mainland to the rocky island, and the tide was rapidly rising along it. My driver, a dour fellow with a fisherman's face, muttered something unintelligible as he set down my trunk. "You'll want to be quick, sir," he said finally, nodding towards the winding road that led uphill. "Another hour, and the causeway'll be under. After that no one in or out till the storm passes." I thanked him, though unease tightened inside me. I had been invited by Sir Benedict Vale, a man of great reputation, admired as one of England's great philanthropists, though admired perhaps more for his money than his character. The invitation had come suddenly, written in brisk formality, and had intrigued me with the single line, "I would value your presence, as a man who has seen truth under fire, and knows how to distinguish courage from dishonor." Benedict Vale, a curious way to extend hospitality, but I had accepted. After all, I had seen little excitement since leaving the army, and curiosity is a disease a man must feed or perish from altogether. Ebon Tide House appeared as I climbed higher up the slope, a long, imposing building of dark stone, standing against the fury of sea and wind as though determined never to yield. Great arched windows faced the water, like eyes watching the sea, patient, ancient, and faintly judging. At the entrance, a maid opened the heavy oak door before I could reach for the knocker. She was small and dark-haired, with intelligent eyes. "Captain Arthur Dane?" she asked. "Yes. Welcome to Ebon Tide House. I'm Clara Bream. Please, come inside." The hall into which I stepped was grand, yet curiously oppressive. Mahogany walls lined with oil portraits, a sweeping staircase draped in velvet, and a chandelier that glowed like imprisoned fire. Somewhere deeper in the house, a piano played a low, thoughtful melody. "You have arrived just in time," the maid said. "The tide is rising quickly tonight. The others are already gathered." "The others?" She nodded. "Sir Benedict invited several guests. A private gathering, I believe." Now, my curiosity sharpened. I had expected a small weekend visit, not a party. She led me through the hallway and into the drawing room, where the guests had assembled. It was a room that seemed designed for observation, tall windows overlooking the sea, a large fireplace, and an arrangement of chairs that formed a loose half-circle, as though expecting a performance. Conversation faltered as I entered. A striking woman in an elegant silver gown turned toward me. She was perhaps in her early 40s, with clear, composed features and eyes that looked as though they had seen too much yet spoken too little. "Captain Arthur Dane," she extended a calm hand. "I am Lady Helena Vale, Benedict's wife. You are very welcome here." Her manner was gracious, though I detected a reserve beneath it, caution rather than warmth. Near the window stood a tall man with thinning hair and a hawk-like nose. He gave me a curt nod, but did not speak. Behind him, a woman in a dark dress was sipping tea with the surgeon's steadiness of hand. Another man, younger and sharp-faced, lounged by the fire, watching everything with the restless alertness of a fox. Lady Helena introduced them one by one. Mr. Felix Arden, a journalist. Dr. Rowena March, our village physician. Gareth Pike, the financial officer of Benedict's Charity Foundation. And she hesitated only a moment before gesturing toward a woman seated near the piano. The woman looked up. She had dark red hair and eyes that were unreadable. "Miss Vera Lyle, guest of Sir Benedict." Guest. The word hung oddly in the room. "And our final guest," Lady Helena continued, "needs no introduction in certain circles." A small man stepped forward, immensely neat in appearance, from his precisely trimmed mustache to his polished shoes. He exuded a quiet authority. He inclined his head with polite dignity. "Monsieur Lucien Morel." I knew the name. Anyone who read the papers did. Though he avoided publicity, whispers of his brilliance in solving delicate European crimes had made their way to England. "A pleasure to meet you, Captain," he said, studying me with mild interest. "I see already that you are a man who observes before he judges. This is good." I blinked, unsure how he had reached such a conclusion in mere seconds. "And where," I asked, "is our host?" The room shifted uneasily. Before Lady Helena could answer, the door opened and a stout man with tide-marked boots entered, clearly a fisherman or sailor by trade. "Apologies," he said in a rough accent. "Boats secured against the winds. Tides nearly cut the causeway, no getting off tonight." "Thank you, Leo Sanford," Lady Helena said. "That will be all." He nodded and withdrew. Still no sign of Sir Benedict. "Dinner will be served shortly," she said with a composed smile. "My husband will join us then." The storm outside roared against the glass as though testing the strength of the house. Thunder groaned in the distance, and in that moment, though I could not have said why, I felt the distinct sense that we had arrived not simply for dinner but at the beginning of something darkly significant, something that had already begun. "If you are ready, I will continue with chapter 2800 words. Shall I begin?" Chapter 2. The host who vanishes. Dinner at Ebon Tide House was unlike any social gathering I had ever attended. There was a chill beneath the politeness that no fire could warm, and a silence beneath the conversation that no voice could quite dispel. It was as though each of us had been invited under false pretenses, though none yet knew the nature of the deception. We gathered in the dining room shortly after 7. The storm had grown more violent. Rain lashed furiously against the long windows, and the chandeliers trembled with each burst of thunder. Yet there was no sign of Sir Benedict Vale. "He will be here," Lady Helena said when Gareth Pike voiced the question we were all thinking. "My husband is unavoidably delayed." "Matters of importance." Her tone dismissed inquiry. Clara Bream and another maid served dinner, though I noticed their unease. They moved quickly, eyes lowered, as if wary of speaking out of turn. When I asked Clara, quietly, whether Sir Benedict had been seen that afternoon, she hesitated before replying that she had not personally spoken to him since luncheon. "You mean you have not seen him at all?" I asked. "I said," she answered with a direct glance, "that I hadn't spoken to him." The distinction struck me at once. She had chosen her words carefully. "Why?" Felix Arden, the journalist, poked disinterestedly at his soup before setting his spoon down. "You know," he said dryly, "it is not customary to invite guests and then refuse to appear." Gareth Pike gave a short laugh that lacked any trace of humor. "Benedict Vale has always felt the rules of courtesy do not apply to him. To wealth perhaps, but not to him." He took a swallow of wine. "If he wishes us to admire his theatrics, we shall simply have to applaud." "Please, Mr. Pike," Lady Helena said sharply. "This is neither the time nor the place." "On the contrary," said Felix, leaning back, "I think this is exactly the time." Vera Lyle, the singer, who until then had been silent, spoke coolly. "Perhaps Sir Benedict is testing us." "For what purpose?" I asked. She shrugged one elegant shoulder. "Powerful men seldom need a reason to be cruel. It is merely sport to them." I was beginning to understand that Sir Benedict Vale was not beloved among his companions, even among those under his roof. One person seemed unaffected by the tension, Monsieur Lucien Morel. He ate slowly, meticulously, eyes half lowered but always alert. Morel was a man who never wasted a gesture. When he finally chose to speak, the room waited. "I wonder," he said lightly, "if Sir Benedict does not watch us even now." "Watch us?" Dr. Rowena March frowned. "From where?" "From wherever he may be," Morel replied, setting down his fork. "The absence of a man is sometimes more deliberate than his presence." What he meant by that, he did not explain. After dinner, we moved back to the drawing room. The storm now howled like a living thing, low and furious. The house seemed to tremble beneath it. Leo Sanford returned briefly to report that the causeway was now fully submerged. We were trapped on the island until morning. Felix Arden muttered, "Splendid. Now, we must suffer Benedict's hospitality whether we wish to or not." But even as he spoke, I noticed something. It was not irritation that moved through the guests, it was unease. Real unease. As though his absence had begun to take on a darker shape. By 9:30, Lady Helena excused herself to go in search of her husband. Minutes passed, 10, then 15. Conversation dwindled. When she finally returned, she looked paler than before. "Benedict is not in his study," she said quietly. "Nor in his rooms. I have searched the library, the music room, his office, everywhere." She clasped her hands together tightly. "He is nowhere to be found." "Nowhere?" Gareth Pike scoffed. "He must be here. The house isn't that large." "No," she said. "He is not here." Morel stood. "Has anyone checked outside?" "You cannot go out there," Lady Helena said. "The storm is dangerous, and the cliffs are." But Felix was already on his feet. "I'll check the grounds," he said. "A man doesn't simply disappear." "I will go with you," I said. Leo Sanford joined us near the Great Hall, pulling on a weatherproof coat. "You'll not last 5 minutes out there alone. Stay close. The sea can take a man before he even knows he's gone." Armed with lanterns, we forced open the back door. The storm greeted us like a wild animal, the wind nearly tearing the lantern from my grip. We searched the gardens, the path to the cliffs, the boathouse. Nothing. No sign of Sir Benedict. In the boathouse, the waves surged violently below. The small family motorboat rocked heavily against its moorings. Leo knelt to inspect the lock on the boathouse door. "Still secured," he called over the gale. "No one's taken the boat." "Then how could he have left the island?" Felix shouted. "He didn't," Leo said grimly. Back inside, soaked and wind-beaten, we gathered in the entrance hall. Lady Helena stood at the foot of the staircase, her composure beginning to fracture. Dr. Rowena March looked genuinely troubled. Gareth Pike's face had lost its smugness. Even Vera Lyle looked shaken. "I think," Morel said quietly, "we must accept something. Sir Benedict Vale has vanished. And not by accident." I stared at him. "You mean?" He nodded slowly. "Yes, Captain. Whatever has happened here tonight, it did not begin with chaos." His gaze swept the room sharp as a blade. "It began with a plan, and whether by fear or guile, no one met his eyes." Chapter 3. Questions in the storm. No one slept that night. After our failed search outside, the atmosphere inside Ebon Tide House had changed entirely. What began as irritation and speculation now grew into something else, something much colder. Fear had entered the house. It moved quietly at first, showing itself in glances, in hushed tones, in doors that closed a little too quickly. We did not yet speak of murder, but the possibility hung unspoken between every word. Lady Helena withdrew to speak privately with the housekeeper. Gareth Pike poured himself another glass of brandy with a hand that trembled slightly. Dr. Rowena March sat rigidly upright, her normally precise expression suddenly watchful. Vera Lyle stared at the sea beyond the window, as though expecting it to return a secret. Felix Arden stood by the fire, pacing with nervous impatience. Monsieur Lucien Morel waited until the last clock in the house struck midnight, before he quietly said, "We will begin now." "Begin what?" No one asked, for we already knew. We gathered once more in the drawing room. The storm raged still, hammering against the tall windows. Leo Sanford stood by the door like a coastal sentinel, arms crossed. Morel remained seated, hands folded, voice calm. "We must proceed logically. A man does not vanish from a sealed island, unless one of two things is true. Either he had help, or he never left the house at all." Gareth Pike scoffed. "What are you suggesting? That Benedict Vale is hiding? Playing some elaborate game?" Morel shook his head. "No, Sir Benedict Vale is not hiding." "How can you be so certain?" asked Dr. March. "Because hiding is a choice made by someone who fears discovery. From what I have learned already, Sir Benedict was a man who enjoyed being seen, not concealed." Felix Arden gave a cold laugh. "You have judged his character after barely 3 hours' acquaintance?" "I do not judge," Morel said. "I observe. Sir Benedict set this dinner, these invitations, this isolated gathering he intended an audience. Men who orchestrate attention do not vanish for pleasure." A murmur passed around the room. "So then," I said quietly, "you believe something has happened to him?" "Yes," said Morel. "Something has happened to him. The question is what?" And when Lady Helena appeared in the doorway, she had changed into a darker gown, and her fair hair was pinned with immaculate precision once again, yet her hands remained tightly clasped. "Monsieur Morel," she said, "please proceed." He rose. "We begin with the facts. Sir Benedict Vale was last seen by whom?" "By me," Gareth Pike said reluctantly. "Shortly after 5 o'clock. He was in his study. Did anyone else see him after that?" "Oh," one answered. Morel continued, "So from 5 o'clock this afternoon until now, 7 hours have passed. In that time, every one of us has moved freely throughout this house. Yet no one has seen our host again. I wish to know how was each of us occupied during those 7 hours." "You want to question us," Felix said. "Individually." "Oui," Morel said politely. "Individual." I knew then what Morel truly wanted. Not alibis, but contradictions. Interview 1. Gareth Pike was first. He sat reluctantly, jaw tight. "I left Sir Benedict in his study," he said. "He was in a foul temper, as usual." "We argued." "About what?" asked Morel. "Accounts," Pike said shortly. "He accused me of mishandling charitable funds. I told him his demands were impossible to meet. That is all. And after this argument, I went to the library to work." "For 7 hours?" Felix Arden asked with thin sarcasm. "Yes," Pike snapped. "I was drafting a financial report." Morel leaned forward slightly. "And did anyone see you in the library?" Pike hesitated. "No." Interview to Dr. Rowena Marchter. Rowena March sat upright, fingers interlaced. "I spent the afternoon in the music room," she said. "There is a piano. I find playing helps me think." "Think about what?" Morel asked gently. "My patients," she said. "I have several difficult cases awaiting results." "And did anyone enter the room while you were playing?" "One of the maids, briefly. Clara Brie, a leave. She brought tea." "She did not speak to you?" "No mention of Sir Benedict?" Dr. March's gaze flickered, then steadied. "No, nothing of the kind." Interview 3. Felix Arden seemed almost amused to be questioned. "I went walking," he said. "Around the house. The grounds. I enjoy old architecture." "In the rain?" I asked skeptically. "I had a coat," he said simply. Morel regarded him. "Did you see Sir Benedict on these walks?" "No." "Did you hear anything? Any voices? Movements?" Arden paused. "I heard raised voices near the study sometime after 5. That could have been Pike." Pike glared at him. "Why didn't you mention that earlier?" "Because," Arden said coolly. No one asked. Interview 4. Vera Lyle sat with one leg elegantly crossed over the other, calm but guarded. "I was in my room most of the evening," she said. Morel lifted a brow. "All evening?" "Yes." "Doing what, may I ask?" "I was writing letters." "To whom?" She paused. "To friends." "Friends?" Morel repeated. "Not family?" Her expression chilled. "That is correct." Interview 5. Leo Sanford shrugged when questioned. "I was in the boathouse until dusk, securing the moorings. After that, I stayed near the kitchens. Bad storms make me uneasy." "Did you see or hear Sir Benedict?" "No," Leo said. "Not once." When at last the interviews were finished, attention filled the room like icy mist. Each alibi, if one could even call them, that was weak. No witnesses, no confirmations. Every one of us had ample opportunity to encounter Sir Benedict Vale. Morel stood by the mantel, observing us in silence. At last, he spoke. "We have a vanished man. No way off this island. And not one of you can account for your time. What are you implying?" Gareth Pike demanded. "Nothing yet," Morel said softly. "But I will tell you this: Sir Benedict Vale did not vanish by chance. Someone here knows what happened to him." A flash of lightning illuminated the room, and for a moment, every face turned pale. "From this moment," Morel said, voice low but resolute, "until Sir Benedict Vale is found, no one leaves this house." And for the first time, I realized the truth. The storm outside was not the danger. The danger was already inside. Chapter 4. Clues in silence. Morning did not bring relief. The storm had calmed only in violence, not in voice. The sky outside was a morning gray, and the waves slammed rhythmically against the black rocks below, as if reminding us of their hungry patience. None of us had slept well, and by the time I reached the breakfast room, the air was heavy with both exhaustion and suspicion. Lady Helena sat at the head of the long table, porcelain cup in her hands. She had not touched her breakfast. Dr. March was reading a newspaper she clearly wasn't absorbing. Felix Arden looked wickedly awake for a man who had barely slept, while Gareth Pike seemed more afraid than ever, eyes red, collar askew. Leo Sanford stood near the French doors, staring out at the sea as if he blamed it personally for everything that had gone wrong. But one chair was empty, Monsieur Lucien Morel's. Clara entered quietly with tea. Monsieur Morel is already working, she said when Lady Helena asked after him. Working? Felix echoed. On what? On finding Sir Benedict, came an unexpected voice behind us. We turned to see Morel in the doorway. He held no breakfast, no tea, only a pair of grey gloves in one hand and a folded sheet of paper in the other. His expression was alert but composed. I must see Sir Benedict's study, he said. Now, the study lay at the far end of the east wing, a large room of polished walnut and glass-fronted bookshelves. Heavy curtains framed a wide window that stared over the sea, and a grand desk dominated the center. But it was not the grandeur of the study that struck me. It was the stillness. Nothing in that room felt alive. Every object sat in poised order, to precise, to clean, as if it had been arranged by someone with not merely tidiness, but intention. Do not touch anything, Morel said sharply as Gareth Pike reached for a decanter. Pike withdrew his hand with a muttered curse. Morel began to move about the room in slow, deliberate steps, his gloved hands carefully avoiding surfaces. He paused near the desk. Look here, he said softly. We gathered around him. Sir Benedict's chair was pushed neatly under the desk, but there was something wrong. A man rises in a hurry, Morel said, and the chair is thrown back. He rises calmly, it remains angled to one side. Yet this, he touched the chair slightly with one gloved finger. This has been pushed in, not abandoned. Reset. Someone cleaned the room? Dr. March asked. Or staged it, Morel replied. He moved next to the drinks cabinet. There were 3 glasses neatly aligned on a silver tray. He lifted one, examining it in the light. What do you see, Captain? He asked me. I frowned. Nothing. It's spotless. Yes, said Morel. Too spotless. All 3 have been polished, but only one has been wiped inside. He held out the glass. A faint smear barely visible marked the lip. Not a stain, but the ghost of one removed. Why polish only one glass more than the others? He asked. To hide what it held, I said slowly. Or, Felix said with a half smirk, to hide who drank from it. Morel placed the glass back. Then he turned to the fireplace. Something glittered in the ashes. Carefully, he used the tip of a letter opener to lift a scrap of charred paper from the grate. The edges were burned, but a line of writing remained. No further contact after this evening. Do not attempt, the rest was lost. Someone burned a letter, Vera said quietly. Yes, said Morel, but they did not burn it thoroughly. This was done in haste. Benedict must have burned it, Gareth Pike said. He probably received something unpleasant. Morel shook his head slowly. No, if Sir Benedict wished to destroy something, he would do so completely. The clumsy burning, it belongs to someone in a hurry. Someone who feared being discovered holding it. Lady Helena stepped closer. Then you believe someone was here, in this room, after Benedict vanished? Morel looked at her steadily. Yes, and they attempted to remove evidence. He crossed the room again, pausing before the mantel clock. A handsome brass piece with Roman numerals. It ticked with crisp elegance. What time do you have, Captain? Morel asked. I checked my wristwatch. 23 minutes past 9. And this clock? He said. I leaned forward. The mantel clock read 9:26. 3 minutes fast, I observed. Morel nodded. Time is a curious thing, is it not? We depend on it so much that we seldom question it. I frowned. Are you suggesting someone tampered with the clock? That, said Morel, is exactly what I am suggesting. But why? Gareth demanded. Because, Morel answered calmly, when a clock is trusted, every alibi attached to it becomes trusted too. A sharp silence fell. Clara Bream appeared in the doorway then, hesitant. Monsieur Morel, shall I bring anything? Morel turned. Yes. Bring me a mirror. A mirror, sir? Yes, he said. A small one. And cloth. We shall need both. The maid hurried off. Vera Lyle folded her arms. What on earth do you intend to do with a mirror? She asked. Sometimes, Morel said, a mirror shows us what is absent better than the eyes can. He turned suddenly toward the window. The writing desk stood before it, its surface immaculate, except for a single detail. Captain, he said quietly, come here. I stepped beside him. Tell me, he said, what is wrong with this picture? At first, I didn't see it. The desk was perfectly arranged, not a paper out of place. But then it struck me. The ink bottle was slightly off-center. Its dust ring betrayed that it had been moved. Someone had been here at the desk after Sir Benedict disappeared, and they had tried to hide it. Morel straightened. Ladies and gentlemen, he said, voice low but steady, this room has been disturbed. The question is not whether someone returned here, but who and why. He glanced once more at the window, at the restless sea beyond. His expression hardened. Sir Benedict Vale did not leave Ebon Tide House of his own accord, he said. This was not a disappearance. He turned back to us. This was the first step in a plan. Chapter 5. The first lie breaks. Clara returned to the study with the small beveled mirror and a folded white cloth. Morel took them with a courteous nod and crossed to the mantel. The brass clock ticked with prim self-importance. Observe, he murmured. He placed the mirror flat upon the mantel, its edge kissing the base of a delicate gilt figurine, a shepherdess holding a garland. In the mirror we saw, not the figure itself, but the reflection of the cornice line above the fireplace. The figurine, when centered, aligned perfectly beneath the carved acanthus leaf. This housekeeper, Morel said, she is most exact. One sees the imprint of precision everywhere. Yet last night, the reflection would not have aligned so. He nudged the figurine 2 finger widths to the left. The mirror now showed a neat symmetry. Someone moved it, and then replaced it poorly, he finished. A small tremor in an otherwise orderly world. Gareth Pike huffed. A trinket is hardly a clue to murder. Morel ignored him. He lifted the white cloth next. At first, I thought it only linen. Then he held it near the lamp and turned it so the weave caught the light. Dark flecking appeared, tiny crystals nested in the threads. Sea salt, he said softly. How on earth? Dr. March began. Because the cloth has done duty by the water, Morel replied. Not merely damp salt marked. Captain, you remember the boathouse bell yesterday? The tide warning? I did. On storm nights, Leo Sanford had told us, the bell's clang prevented anyone from forgetting that the sea was advancing. Yet last night, the boathouse had been weirdly silent. Morel folded the cloth. If one wished to make the night more confusing, one would muffle that bell. A cloth bound about the clapper would still the sound. And afterwards, one might return the cloth to a drawer, trusting that in a gentleman's house linen looks like linen. But salt betrays the sea. Lady Helena's eyes flicked to Leo Sanford, who stood near the door, broad-shouldered and unreadable. Leo's jaw tightened. You're looking at the wrong man, sir. Perhaps, Morel said, yet we shall look. He set the cloth upon the desk and turned to Clara. Where did you find this? In a small drawer of the sideboard in the morning room, sir, she said. It was out of place with the damask napkins. Thank you. And one question more. Who has general charge of the boathouse? Mr. Sanford, of course, Clara said. No one else touches the boats. Leo spoke before anyone else could. Anyone could go there. Doors weren't locked earlier in the day. Morel repeated gently. But after dusk? A muscle flickered in Leo's cheek. I locked it after dusk. Then you see the difficulty, Morel said. If you locked it, and the warning bell still fell silent, either you muffled it yourself, or you gave access to another. Neither, Leo said hotly. You'll not hang this on me. Hang? Murmured Felix. I admire the economy of your conscience. Leo swung round. You keep your clever tongue in your head, Mr. Arden. Felix raised his hands in mock surrender, but his eyes glittered. It was then Morel turned to him quite suddenly. And you, Monsieur the journalist, what truth were you to publish of Sir Benedict? Felix's smile thinned. A profile. Another word for a mirror, Morel said. And mirrors, we find today, are not always flattering. Were you writing praise or warning? For a heartbeat Felix considered lying. Then he shrugged. the movement elegant and tired. A warning, if you like. His foundation moved money in interesting ways. I could prove it almost. I needed one thing more. Which was? Asked Gareth stiffly. Confirmation of a transfer, Felix said, eyes sliding to Pike. From a restricted medical fund to a private holding. Not much, but enough to shame everyone involved. Pike flushed a dangerous shade. You insolent enough, Lady Helena said, voice sharp as crystal. This is not a market court, but the exchange had done its work. Greed and fear were no longer abstract motives. They had faces. Morel returned to the desk and lifted the polished glass from the silver tray. We have 3 disturbances. The figurine moved, the glass wiped, the bell silenced. All acts of hands. The question becomes, whose hands were most at liberty last night? He let the glass catch the light. Mr. Pike claims the library alone. Dr. March, the music room. Miss Lyle, her chamber. Mr. Arden, the grounds. Mr. Sandford, the boathouse until dusk, then the kitchens. Each of these alibis lacks a witness. Then accuse us all, Vera Lyle said coolly. It would be efficient. I prefer precision to efficiency, Morel said. Mr. Sandford, be so good as to remove your boots. Leo stared. What? Your boots? Morel repeated. If you please. The fisherman hesitated, then, with a muttered oath, tugged them off and set them beside the hearthrug. They were heavy leather, scuffed by years of salt and work. Morel knelt, and, with a delicacy I had not associated with any man examining another's footwear, pressed gently at the welt. He did not need the mirror this time. The salt, clinging like frost, glittered along the stitching and tangled in it, a strand of sea-green weed, dried now but unmistakable. From the eastern cove, Leo blurted, too quick. It snags everywhere down there. Curious, Morel said mildly, because last night in the storm you told us none had business near the eastern cove. The path is treacherous, the cliff worse. Leo's silence admitted the lie before his face did. Why were you at the cove after dusk? Morel asked, almost kindly. To silence the bell is one thing. To go to the cove is another. What did you carry there? What did you bring back? I brought nothing, Leo said hoarsely. I went to make sure the moorings would hold. I did what any decent boatman would do. Then why lie? Morel's voice was silk. A simple truth requires no embroidery. Leo's gaze darted to Lady Helena. For the first time, something like panic entered his eyes. I was asked to keep the bell quiet, he said at last. The room drew breath as one. By whom? Morel's tone did not change. Leo swallowed. By Sir Benedict. No, Morel said, almost pitying. You were not paid to keep the house in peace. You were used to keep time in confusion. And because you know who asked you, you have lied. Look at the cloth salted, hurriedly hidden. Look at your boots weed from the cove. Look at the silent bell and the clock 3 minutes fast. These do not sing a chorus to Sir Benedict. Leo's shoulders slumped. I can't, he whispered. I can't say. Then permit me to say what your conscience cannot. Morel replied. He turned to the company, his eyes resting on each of us and sliding, finally, to the woman whose calm had never quite cracked. Someone with the habit of authority, whose presence in any room raises no question, he said, asked for a quiet bell and a compliant tide. Someone who understands how a house breathes. Meaning? Gareth demanded. Meaning, Morel said softly. The first lie belongs to the household, not the guest. Lady Helena's cup touched the saucer with the faintest chime. It might have been the wind. It might have been fear. Mr. Sandford, Morel concluded, until Sir Benedict is found, you will remain within sight of others. Your boots will be kept here. And if you remember anything more about the Eastern Cove, you will tell us at once. Leo nodded, broken. The first lie lay between us like a wet rope hauled from the sea, dripping truth upon the carpet. And for the first time since the storm began, I felt we had set foot upon something solid, not land, perhaps, but the submerged path that led to it. Chapter 6. A dark discovery. By midday, the sky had begun to clear, but the air was still heavy, as though the storm had left something behind, an echo, a warning, a bruise. The sea had retreated from the causeway, but not far enough to allow passage. Ebon Tide House remained an island. And so did we. Monsieur Morel wasted no time. Sir Benedict Vale must be found, he said. We search again properly this time. Felix Arden smirked. Was last night merely a rehearsal, then? Morel gave him a cold glance. Last night was panic. Panic obscures truth. Today, we will proceed with method. He divided us without allowing debate. Felix Arden and Gareth Pike to search the boathouse and shoreline. Dr. Rowena March and Vera Lyle to check outbuildings and the clifftop paths. Lady Helena to review Sir Benedict's private rooms for anything he might have hidden. Clara Bream to question the remaining servants discreetly. Leo Sanford under observation assigned to accompany me. Monsieur Morel back to the study, hunting for the pattern only he seemed able to see. Why put Sanford with me? I asked him quietly as we prepared to leave. Because, he replied, lowering his voice, he has not yet told us everything. But with you, Captain, he may yet speak truth. And why not question him here? Morel's eyes glinted. Because truth does not always sit politely. Sometimes it walks beside us until it realizes escape is no longer possible. Searching the cliff's sea was still dangerous, still frothing with the afterbreath of the storm. Sharp winds gnawed at exposed stone as Leo Sanford and I made our way down the narrow path that skirted the cliff. Below, waves slapped violently against rocks black as obsidian. Keep close to the wall, Leo warned. The ledge narrows ahead. You've walked this way recently, I said. He gave a short grunt. So Morel thinks. And you? Do you think I helped murder your fine philanthropist? We don't yet know he was murdered, I said. No, Leo muttered. But we will. He walked in silence for a while before adding bitterly. Men like Vale don't die by chance. Someone gives fate a push. Someone like you? His jaw tightened. I didn't kill him. Then why lie? He exhaled sharply. Because lies protect things. What things? People, he said, eyes hard. Even from themselves. I was about to ask more when I saw it, a shape caught among the jagged rocks below. Something pale, half buried in shadow. Leo, I said slowly, pointing. What is that? He looked down, following my gaze. His breath caught. A coat, a torn sleeve, a human arm. The body climbed down to the lower rocks, bracing against the force of the waves. The air smelled of salt and kelp and something else, something metallic. The body lay face down where the tide had trapped it. Gray hair matted with seawater, shoulders heavy in a dark coat. A walking stick lay near the rocks, snapped in two. Even before we turned him over, I knew. It was Sir Benedict Vale. We freed the body from the crevice where the sea had lodged it. The fall alone could have killed him, but the bruise along the left temple was sharp-edged and dark. A violent blow before death. Blood had mixed with seawater and sand. Whatever had happened here was not an accident. The tide had not taken him. Something else had then cast him into the sea. He didn't fall, I said quietly. He was struck. Leo Sanford ran a hand over his face. God forgive us. For what? I demanded. He hesitated, but before he could speak, a shout from above announced the others had seen us. Felix Arden's voice echoed from the cliff. Dane, are you alive down there? Get Morel, I called back. We've found him. The truth rises with the tide. Morel arrived within minutes, climbing down with surprising agility for a man of such precise habits. He stopped beside the body and examined it without touching. Yes, he said quietly. This is no drowning. Lately Helena reached the rocks a moment later, Clara behind her. It was she, not I, who knelt beside the body first. She did not cry. She did not call his name. Instead, she placed 2 fingers gently against his sleeve and bowed her head. Helena, Dr. March said softly. You shouldn't. I will stay, she said. He may have been a hard man, but he was my husband. There was a long silence broken only by the growling sea. How long has he been dead? Vera asked. The tide trapped him here, Morel said. Perhaps since last night. Impossible, Gareth muttered. He wasn't here when we searched. No, Morel said. He was not. This body was placed here after the first search. Felix's eyes narrowed. Moved? Yes, Morel said. Moved and staged. Staged, I repeated. Morel pointed at the snapped walking stick. Why break it? Why leave it near the body rather than lose it to the sea? Why allow us to find him now when earlier we could not? So we would believe he slipped and fell, I said. So we would think he tried to climb down on his own. Exactly, said Morel. But someone miscalculated. They overplayed their hand. Gareth Pike swore under his breath. Then who moved him? Who had time? Who had reason? Morel looked up at the cliffs, the long path to the house, the broken trail of seaweed, the imprint of boots in the mud, now half restored by tide and wind. Someone, he said slowly, who understood the rhythm of the tide. Someone who knew exactly when the body would be revealed. His eyes rested, not accusingly now, but with a deeper weight on Leo Sandford. Leo's voice broke. I swear to you I didn't move him. I didn't kill him. But God help me, I know who did. Every glance snapped toward him. Morel stepped closer. Then speak, Mr. Sandford. Leo's chest heaved. He closed his eyes. I was told to keep my mouth shut, but I've seen enough. I'll not carry someone else's guilt. He opened his eyes, haunted, fierce. I saw someone go to the cliffs last night, he said. Someone who had no business there. Someone who went twice. Who? Demanded. Leo swallowed. Lady Helena Vale. Chapter 7. The wife's secret when swept fiercely across the cliffs as Leo Sandford's accusation fell like a stone among us. Lady Helena Vale stood very still, one hand still resting gently on her husband's lifeless sleeve. Only her eyes moved slowly, lifting to meet Leo's. There was no flash of anger in them, no panic. But something changed. A stillness became a wall. You are mistaken, she said. Her voice did not tremble. No, Leo replied. I saw you. Just before midnight, you came down the cliff path alone. I watched from the boathouse. And you went again after 1 o'clock. Dr. March frowned. Helena, what were you doing there? Lady Helena rose to her feet, brushing sea salt from her gown, her composure intact. I will not answer accusations shouted over my husband's body. She turned to Morel. If a discussion is required, it will take place indoors, with dignity and truth. I could not help but admire her control, but control can be a mask as easily as it can be strength. Morel bowed his head once. Very well. We returned to the house. The drawing room confrontation. Sir Benedict's body was taken to the cellar chamber, where it would rest until the authorities arrived if the causeway reopened. Inside, the drawing room had transformed from a place of reluctant hospitality to a tribunal chamber. Heavy curtains muted the stormlight, and an oppressive stillness pressed in around us. Lady Helena stood near the fireplace. She did not sit. You accuse me, she said to Leo. Explain yourself properly. Leo met her eyes. Whatever loyalty had bound him earlier was gone now. I was near the boathouse late. The wind was rising, and I wanted to check the ropes again. As I climbed up toward the house, I saw you on the cliff path. At first, I thought nothing of it, but you returned later, alone. And you were carrying something. What sort of something? Felix Arden asked sharply. A bundle, Leo said. Could have been rope, or cloth. It was too dark to see. It could have been anything, Gareth Pike protested. A coat, a shawl. Verilyle cut him off. At 1 in the morning? All eyes returned to Lady Helena. I was not at the cliffs, she said calmly. You're lying, Leo shot back. And you, she replied coldly, are a man who admitted to lying only this morning. Leo flinched, but Morel was watching Helena very closely. You deny going to the cliffs? He asked. I do. Yet you went in search of your husband last night, did you not? Yes, she answered. I looked in the study, the library, the cellar, the winter room, but not the cliffs. Morel stepped forward slightly. And if I told you there is proof you walked on the cliff path last night? Her chin lifted just slightly. Then I would say your proof is false. You have seaweed, Morel said quietly, caught in the hem of your gown. A breath of shock escaped from someone. Dr. March, perhaps, but Helena did not falter. She turned, looked down at the hem of her gown, and to my astonishment smiled. It was not a warm smile. It was cold and razor thin. This gown, she said, was worn earlier in the day. I walked through the lower garden before the storm. She met Morel's gaze. Seaweed clings, especially on a coast. Your proof, Monsieur Morel, is simply the result of a poor laundry service. There was a pause. She had turned the accusation aside like a fencer deflecting a thrust. But Morel did not retreat. "Then perhaps," he said, "you would explain something else, madam." He lifted a folded sheet of paper, the charred scrap from the study fireplace. "This letter fragment was found in your husband's study, written to someone he demanded no further contact after this evening. Tell me, was he speaking of you?" Her eyes flickered, but only for the briefest instant. "No," she replied. "That letter was not meant for me." "Then for whom?" asked Vera sharply. Helena did not answer. Morel stepped closer. His voice softened, but it gained weight. "Lady Helena, you have lied not once but twice in this room. You lied when you denied being at the cliffs. And now, you avoid explaining a letter that might explain why your husband vanished before we found him dead." She met his gaze steadily. "You cannot prove I was at the cliffs." Morel nodded slightly. "Then let us set the cliffs aside. Let us ask instead, why did Sir Benedict threaten to sever contact with someone before dinner last night?" Gareth Pike rose abruptly. "Must we drag this through the dust? The man is dead. And you," Felix said with a cynical smile, "are remarkably eager to change the subject." Gareth swung toward him. "You vulture, enough," Lady Helena snapped, and the room went very still. When she spoke again, she chose her words slowly. "My husband did write such a letter," she said, "but not to me, to someone else in this room." A ripple moved through us. "To whom?" Morel asked. She turned and looked directly at Dr. Rowena March. The doctor froze. "Benedict discovered Lady Helena continued. "Something unprofessional. He intended to expose you. That is why you came to Ebon Tide. He demanded your presence." Rowena's composure cracked at last. "Helena, don't. He gave you until midnight to confess privately or face disgrace." "That's a lie." Lady Helena's voice cut cold as winter's sea. "Then explain why your medical ledger disappeared from Benedict's study. Explain why he summoned you alone just before 5 o'clock. Explain." "Enough," Dr. March shouted, paling visibly. The room held its breath. She sank into a chair, trembling. "I didn't kill him," she whispered. "But yes, I had a reason to hate." Now, the confession hung heavy in the air. For the first time, we had not only a body but undeniable motive. Morel folded the burned letter and slipped it into his pocket. "Now," he said quietly, "we begin to see the shadows." Sir Benedict Vale was struck before he entered the sea. His disappearance was staged, and lies much like the tide have begun to reveal what they once concealed. He looked around at each face. "Someone in this house murdered him." Then his voice hardened. "But they did not do it alone." Chapter 8. The trap titan storm had passed, but inside Ebon Tide House, the air felt more dangerous than any gale. We now had a body, a confirmed murder, and rising proof that someone here was lying not once, but repeatedly. By late afternoon, Morel had gathered us once again in the drawing room. No one protested now. The waiting was over. Everyone sensed that the investigation had reached a turning point. Only one person did not sit. Dr. Rowena March stood at the window, stiff-backed, staring out at the restlessly shifting sea. There was something fierce in her posture, not fear, but humiliation. "You say I had a motive to kill Benedict," she said at last, without turning. "Very well. I will not insult you by denying it. I should hope not," Felix Arden muttered, "given how thoroughly you just confirmed it." She ignored him. Benedict Vale was a monster of a particular kind, one who ruins lives quietly, politely, and without leaving fingerprints. "Yes, he summoned me yesterday. Yes, he threatened my career. But I am not a murderer." "Threatened your career? How?" Gareth Pike demanded. "What did he have on you?" "That," she said sharply, "is none of your business." "On the contrary," Felix said, leaning forward. "When a man dies violently, everything becomes our business." "Felix," Morel's voice cut through the tension like a blade of silk, "you will curb your enthusiasm for scandal." Felix leaned back, but his eyes burned. Morel turned to Rowena. "If you wish to clear your name, doctor, you must speak plainly. Secrets invite suspicion." She looked at him warily. "You think this absurd inquisition will yield the truth?" "I do," Morel said simply. She faced us then, and for the first time since her arrival, there was no shield in her expression, only exhaustion. "Very well," she said, Benedict discovered that I altered patient records one patient to protect their privacy. No crime was committed, but under medical law it is considered misconduct. He told me unless I agreed to a request of his, he would expose me. What request? Lady Helena asked sharply. Rowena hesitated. He wanted access to private medical records. Someone else's. He would not say whose records. I asked quietly. I don't know. A lie, Gareth accused. You must. I don't know, she snapped. I refused. He gave me until midnight to reconsider. Vera Lyle stared at her. So he threatened you. You refused, and within hours he conveniently vanishes. Forgive me, doctor, but that does not help your case. I didn't kill him, Rowena said again, lower now, almost to herself. I didn't. Morel watched her with silent calculation. It was impossible to tell whether he believed her. At last, he turned. There is a question we must now ask, he said. When, precisely, did Sir Benedict Vale die? We found him this morning, Pike said gruffly. He died sometime last night. Not necessarily, Morel replied. When a body falls into cold seawater, decomposition slows. A misleading sameness settles over the skin. He could have died late last night or early. Lady Helena frowned. Earlier? But he was seen alive at 5 o'clock yesterday evening. Seen by whom? Morel asked softly. Silence. Then slowly, her head turned toward Gareth Pike. He flushed. I said I saw him. In the study, and he was alone. Morel asked. Yes, Pike said. He dismissed me after our argument. Curious, said Morel. Because the decanter of brandy in the study used recently contains only one set of fingerprints, and they are not yours. Pike went still. And the chair at the desk, Morel continued, was wiped clean. Carefully. Why would a man wipe fingerprints from a chair? Pike swallowed. How would I know? You would know, Felix said slowly. It's narrowing. If you weren't there at all. Morel nodded once. Precisely. Pike stood abruptly. Are you calling me a liar? Yes, Morel said, unflinching. You claim to have argued with Sir Benedict in the study, yet your fingerprints are absent. Your alibi was manufactured. You were never with him yesterday after 5 o'clock. Pike looked around the room, wild-eyed. I didn't touch anything. I don't go around smearing my fingerprints everywhere, yet this morning, when you took a glass from the drinks cabinet here, Morel said calmly, you left prints without hesitation. People do not change habits by night. Pike opened his mouth and closed it again, defeated. Sweat had broken across his forehead.
Gareth, Lady Helena said, her voice now cold, you lied about seeing Benedict. Yes, Pike said bitterly, yes, I lied. Are you satisfied? Why? Morel asked. He slumped into the nearest chair. Because I needed an alibi. Because if I told the truth what I was really doing, no one would have believed me. Then tell us now, I said. What were you doing? He glanced around the room with an expression full of hatred. Not hatred for us, but for whatever truth he was about to utter.
I was searching for proof, he said slowly, that Benedict Vale was stealing from his own foundation. Felix leaned forward sharply. You accused me of lies, yet I was right? Pike ignored him. I found evidence. Bank transfers. He moved money quietly, in discreet amounts, bleeding the charity over time. And you went to confront him, Vera said. Pike shook his head. I didn't get that far. When I went to confront him, he wasn't in the study. He wasn't in the house at all. Morel watched him. At what time was this? 7:15, Pike said. Maybe 7:30. He was already gone. A chill swept through me. If that was true, it meant Sir Benedict had vanished far earlier than we believed. Hours before he was expected at dinner. Hours before anyone thought to worry. The entire timeline was collapsing. Morel spoke with clinical precision. You claimed last to see him alive, and now you admit you did not. You created an alibi to distort the timeline. Yes, Pike said. Because I knew that if I said I was in his study looking for evidence, you'd say I had a motive to kill him. You do, Felix said coldly. So do you, Pike shot back. Morel raised a hand, silencing them both. There is now no confirmed sighting of Sir Benedict Vale after 5 o'clock yesterday, he said. He could have died any time after that. Which means every one of you had the opportunity He walked slowly across the room, hands clasped behind his back. But one among you, he continued, knew exactly when to move his body, when the tide would conceal and then reveal it. When his death would look accidental, he stopped, turning toward the window where the cliffs loomed faintly through the mist. This was not a crime of rage, he said quietly. It was a plan, and the plan is beginning to show itself. His eyes moved back to the room, sharp, relentless. And now, he said, it is time to uncover the second lie. Chapter 9. The second night had begun to fall again over Ebon Tide House. The evening felt indistinguishable from day now. Hours blurred in that mansion, rooms heavy with silence, arguments echoing long after voices ceased. We were losing patience. Morel had warned it would happen. A closed circle, he said, does not turn upon the truth at once. First, it turns upon itself. Now, as we gathered once more in the drawing room, frustration crackled like electricity. Rose had begun to form accusations thrown in corners, private suspicions whispered in doorways, and in the center of it all, calm as a winter pond, stood Monsieur Morel. You spoke of a second lie, Felix Arden said, pacing near the mantel. Don't taunt us. Which one of us lied next? Morel did not answer at once. Instead, he turned toward Clara Bream, who was setting down a tray of coffee and cups. She had been quiet since the beginning, invisible, efficient, a shadow in the halls. Miss Bream, said Morel, will you join us, please? Clara's hands hesitated only a fraction. She set the tray down and folded them tightly. I'm only the household maid, sir. Precisely, Morel said. Your insight matters greatly. She wasn't even a witness, Gareth Pike muttered. On the contrary, Morel replied, she has been in every room and heard more truth than any of us. Clara glanced nervously at Lady Helena, who gave her a small nod of encouragement. It's all right, she said gently. Answer him. Morel moved toward the desk. Miss Bream, yesterday Sir Benedict received a visitor. Someone not on the guest list. Clara nodded slowly. Yes, you told me earlier, Morel continued quietly, that no one from outside entered the house after the storm warnings were issued. That's right, Clara said. But that, Morel said, placing a hand on the desk for balance, was untrue. A murmur rippled through the room. Clara's composure faltered. No, sir, I meant, he held up a finger, not accusing, merely inviting truth. Miss Bream, he said, you lied because someone asked you to keep silent, and I would like you to tell us who. Her chest rose and fell sharply. Her eyes flicked once toward Vera Lyle. The singer sat with perfect poise on the velvet sofa, her legs crossed, her expression unreadable. Felix Arden leaned forward. Ah, so the silent one has secrets after all. Vera did not turn to him. Instead, she watched Clara with a gaze that was almost warning. Speak, Morel said softly. The truth, mademoiselle. Clara swallowed. Her fingers twisted together. I didn't want to lie. I didn't. But Miss Lyle told me not to say anything. About what? I prompted. Clara took a breath. About the delivery. Morel nodded once. Patient. Encouraging. What delivery? A package, Clara said. Yesterday evening before the tide rose, a boy from the village brought a package for Miss Lyle. Brown paper parcel. No name written. Just the house address. Odd, Felix murmured. In the middle of a storm warning. Morel's eyes narrowed. This parcel, what became of it? I don't know, Clara said quickly. I gave it to Miss Lyle myself. She took it straight to her room. That's all. Why didn't you mention it this morning? Morel asked. Because Clara looked again toward Vera. She said it was private. She said Sir Benedict knew about it, that it didn't matter to anyone else. Vera finally spoke. And I was correct, she said coolly. It has nothing to do with any of this. Why lie then? I asked. Because gossip is poison, she replied. And this house is drowning in it. Morel watched her for a long moment. What was in the parcel? He asked. Nothing relevant, she said. To a murder investigation, he clarified. No, he paused. You are choosing your words with great care. She met his gaze. I'm careful by nature, so am I, Morel said quietly. Let us discuss last night. You claimed to have stayed in your bedroom for the entire evening. I did. And yet, Morel said. "This morning, I found the key to your room left inside the lock from the outside." Her sharp composure flickered. Felix straightened. Gareth Pike almost smiled. And Morel added, "Your window latch is rusted sealed, I should say. It has not opened in years. There was only one way out of your room last night." He pointed to the door. Vera's knuckles tightened on the arm of her chair. "You left your room," Morel said softly. "Yet you lied." She did not move, did not blink. "Where did you go?" Silence. "What was in the package?" he asked again. Silence. Rowena March stepped close, eyes narrowing. "Was it money, Vera?" Still, Vera said nothing. "Documents?" Felix pressed. "Letters? Something you could use over Benedict Vale?" Vera finally spoke. "No," she said quietly. "Then what?" Morel demanded. She lifted her gaze, calm now, but defiant. "A weapon." The word struck the room like a blow. Lady Helena stiffened. Gareth Pike swore under his breath. Leo Sanford muttered something holy. I stared. "A weapon?" "Yes," she said simply. "What kind?" I asked. "Something sharp," she said. "Long, double-edged." "A knife," Felix breathed. "Delivered to you before the murder." Her eyes fixed on him coldly. "No, a knife." Then what I began. Vera Lyle exhaled, and for the first time, I saw her not as a polished figure of icy elegance, but as someone carrying a burden heavy enough to sink her. "It was a dueling blade," she said. "A sword?" Gareth said, incredulous. She gave a small nod. "An antique, concealed in a walking cane. And before you ask, I did not order it. It was sent to me without explanation." "From whom?" Morel asked. Her silence was answer enough. "Lady Lyle," Morel said gently, "understand me. If you continue to conceal what you know, you will stand alone as the prime suspect." She hesitated, then finally, slowly answered. "I didn't kill Benedict Vale," she said. "Then who did?" Morel asked. Vera's voice was quiet, heavy, final. "The man who sent me that blade," she said. "And who is that?" She looked straight at us. "The same man who was blackmailing Benedict Vale." Chapter 10. The letters of blackmail. Room fell into an uneasy silence after Vera Lyle's final words. Outside, dust pressed against the windows in long violet shadows, the last of the day sinking behind the sea. Inside, suspicion settled like a chill over us all. Morel was the first to speak. "You say Benedict Vale was being blackmailed," he said, voice controlled. "By whom?" Vera Lyle did not answer immediately. Instead, she stood and moved to the fireplace, resting a hand on the marble mantel as though gathering strength. "I was not the only one who received a parcel yesterday," she said at last. "Sir Benedict received one as well. A letter, sealed in black wax." Felix Arden leaned forward, eyes sharp. "You saw this letter?" "No," she said. "I didn't see it, but I knew of it." "Because he mentioned it to me." "To you?" I asked. "In what context?" Vera turned, her gaze as cold and precise as the glint of a blade. "Benedict and I had an arrangement. Not romantic," she added before Felix could smirk. "But we did understand one another." "Meaning what exactly?" Pike demanded. "That we were both realists," she replied. "He trusted me not because I was loyal, but because I was honest about my interests. Unlike most people in this house who hide behind polite lies, I do not pretend." Her eyes flickered toward Lady Helena for the briefest moment before she continued. "He showed me part of the letter. A threat, a demand, payment due, or a secret revealed." "What secret?" Rowena March asked. "He didn't say," Vera replied, "but I know this Benedict Vale was terrified of what that letter threatened to expose." "That's absurd," Lady Helena said with sudden force. "My husband feared nothing." Vera tilted her head. "Then why did he change his will 3 days ago?" Helena's face went pale, something rare for a woman of such rigid control. Morel's eyes narrowed. "He changed his will?" "Yes," said Vera calmly. "He told me so himself. He believed someone was closing in on him. Someone who would stop at nothing unless they got what they wanted. And you expect us to believe he confided all this to you?" Felix said. "Yes," she replied simply. "He trusted me because unlike the rest of you I already knew something ugly about him. So what more harm could a little truth do?" "What ugly thing?" Pike asked. Vera met Morel's gaze. I know exactly why Sir Benedict was being blackmailed. Morel clasped his hands behind his back. And who knows this with you? For the first time, something flickered behind Vera's eyes. Fear. Who else knows the secret? Morel asked again. No one, she whispered. Except the blackmailer. And who is he? He pressed. She hesitated, then looked not at Morel this time, but at Dr. Rowena March. Rowena blinked. Me no, Vera said. But you can confirm it. I what? Morel turned to Rowena. Doctor, you told us Benedict demanded medical records. Private ones. Yes, she said slowly, realizing. He wouldn't tell me whose. But you discovered it, Vera finished softly. Didn't you? Rowena's shoulders slumped, resignation washing over her. Yes, she said quietly. I did. Whose records? I asked. Rowena hesitated. Her gaze moved across the room over Gareth Pike, Felix Arden, Vera Lyle, and finally stopped on Lady Helena. Lady Helena straightened. This is going too far. Rowena didn't flinch. The medical records he demanded were not for himself. They were for you. The room froze. What? I breathed. Impossible, Pike muttered. Lady Helena looked from face to face, features expressionless to expressionless. My medical records? She said, her voice low but steady. This is absurd. No, Rowena said. He wanted something buried, something only his wife's physician would know. Vera looked at Helena sharply. Something worth killing for. Helena turned slowly toward Vera, her gaze chilling. And what fantasy do you think you have uncovered? That you were never ill last winter, Rowena said before Vera could speak. You were in the hospital but not for influenza, as your husband claimed. A stunned silence followed. How do you know this? Gareth Pike asked. Because Benedict admitted it, Rowena said, but only when he thought he could use it against me. What was wrong with her? Felix asked. What was hidden? Rowena looked straight at Lady Helena. You were pregnant, she said. The words hit the room like a gust of frigid air. Lady Helena did not move. Her face, so perfectly composed, remained as still as carved marble. But in her eyes, only for a brief, fractured moment, there was pain. Vera stepped closer, and the child's father was not Benedict Vale. Leo Sanford made the sign of the cross. So, Gareth muttered, that's why someone blackmailed him. Yes, Vera said. He wanted the records to prove Helena's illness had been a lie, to prove the child was not his. And rather than face humiliation, he paid. But someone learned about it. Someone who sent a letter demanding more. Someone who sent me a blade wrapped in linen to send a message. A warning, Felix said quietly. Do this or someone dies. Now we begin to see, Morel murmured. His gaze sharpened. The blackmailer was not merely after money. He was tightening a noose, forcing control, threatening reputation, forcing obedience. He turned. And that, he said, is not the work of a desperate thief. It is the work of someone intelligent, someone cunning, someone patient. His eyes moved across the room, weighing each of us. Someone in this house. Chapter 11, the final reveal. Dusk laid a bruised violet across the windows of Ebon Tide House, as Monsieur Morel asked us no, commanded us to assemble in the drawing room one last time. Thunder had long fled the coast, yet tension crackled more fiercely than any storm we had weathered. The chairs formed a crescent round the hearth. Lady Helena stood by the mantel as if too proud to sit. Dr. Rowena March folded her hands with the surgeon's composure that wouldn't hold much longer. Vera Lyle was marble still. Gareth Pike stared at the coals like a gambler waiting on a final card. Leo Sanford lingered near the doors, a man half ready to bolt and half determined to stay. Clara Bream slipped in quietly and stood aside. Morel took no chair. He was the axis upon which the room turned, immaculate, still and blinking. We will finish this, he said softly. There will be no police cleverness, no surprises fetched from a hat. Only what we all have seen, misunderstood, or refused to see. He raised one gloved finger. First time. The mantel clock ran 3 minutes fast. Someone advanced it. Why? So that every alibi spoken by that clock would be believed. The guests depended upon the chimes, the servants upon the kitchen bell, but the kitchen bell was masked by the silent tide bell, the one that should clang from the boathouse on storm nights. It was muffled with linen, a cloth salted from the shore, tucked, not in the correct linen press but hastily in the morning room sideboard. These are the hands of a nervous mind, clever, not expert. He turned his palm. Second, the study. A chair pushed in two neatly reset. 3 glasses on a tray, each polished, but only one wiped within. A scrap of burnt letter, no further contact after this evening, clumsy, hurried. An ink bottle moved from its dust ring. He paused. Someone returned after Sir Benedict had vanished and tidied what mattered, removing the wrong thing and putting back what would please the eye. That is not a housekeeper's habit. It is a guest's fear. Gareth Pike shifted. A bead of sweat shone at his temple. Third, Morel continued, the body, found in a sea cave after our first search. The walking stick broken and left near him, as though he had fallen and tried to climb. But Sir Benedict Vale did not fall. He was struck. A sharp-edged blow above the left temple before the sea took him. Someone who knew the tide's temper placed him where the water would conceal and then reveal him on cue. Morel's gaze moved to Leo. You silenced the bell because you believed a lady of the house desired quiet. Leo swallowed. Aye, because you were shown a note in Lady Helena's hand. Leo's eyes snapped up, astonished. How did you? Because the ink on the blotter told me, Morel said. Someone forged a brief polite instruction for the comfort of Lady Helena and signed her initials. The blot left no signature lines, only the slope of a hand unused to gentility. He inclined his head. You were deceived, Mr. Sandford. That is why you lied, and that is why you stare at Lady Helena. But your first lie belongs, as I told you, to the household, not to the lady. You were used. Lady Helena's chin lifted a fraction. Leo exhaled, stricken with the relief that was itself a punishment. Morel spoke again, voice tightening. Fourth, the parcel. Miss Lyle received a brown paper package, a concealed dueling blade in a cane. She lied about her movements because she feared what this parcel meant, an order, threat. This morning, I found the key to her room left in the corridor lock from the outside. Miss Lyle, you did not lock yourself in. Someone used your key and returned it clumsily. Vera's hands whitened on the chair arm. Yes, she murmured. Why deliver such a weapon? Morel asked the room. Because the murderer needed a striking tool that would not appear to be one. The blade's cane heavy, balanced, can break bone with a single lateral swing. A doctor would call the wound consistent. Rowena March flinched. Then, mastering herself, gave a quiet nod. It is consistent. Now Morel's voice hardened into pure line and logic. Fifth, motive. Someone was bleeding the Vale Foundation in disciplined, modest cuts. That someone feared discovery. Sir Benedict had recently changed his will. He had begun to push back. He sought medical records to wield against his wife, not for love of truth, but for power. Yet the blackmailer who threatened him with black wax letters was of a different mind, patient, intelligent, and very sure. He sent a weapon to Miss Lyle to stiffen her silence and to provide his own. The room had ceased to breathe. Morel turned to Gareth Pike. You, monsieur, lied about seeing Sir Benedict at 5, he said softly. You had not seen him at all. Why lie, if not because you needed to fix the timeline and to explain your presence near his study later? You rummaged for documents, hence the wrong sideboard for the cloth, the hurried burn of the letter, the wrong placement of the mantel figurine when you put the mirror back from your inspection. Pike's mouth opened, shut. This is madness, is it? Morel's eyes glittered. You claimed you were drafting a report in the library, yet when I dusted the book you claimed to have used, I found dust entire upon its top edge. No hand had lifted it in weeks. And there is more. Your shoes bear fine white grit, not from the cliff path, we have all that black, treacherous rock, but from the boathouse threshold, where salt dries pale. You were there, after dusk, when Mr. Sandford had locked it because you had his key. Leo exploded. I never. You did not give it, Morel said. You lost it, for a single hour, plucked from a peg and returned before you thought to notice by a man who watched and waited. He looked back to Pike. A man who needed the bell quiet and the rope handy. A man who steals with decimals and plans with minutes. Pike stood so fast his chair skidded. You will not hang this on me. Morel's voice dropped to a lash of silk. You blackmailed Sir Benedict Vale. You discovered by rifling Dr. March's papers that Lady Helena had been pregnant, and that the child could not be her husband's. You pressed this knowledge into letters sealed in black wax. You demanded money and control. When Vale fought you when he threatened to expose your quiet theft from the foundation, you arranged to meet him on the cliff, took the weighted cane from Miss Lyle's room to be your club, and struck him. You returned indoors, advanced the mantel clock, wiped the glass you had used, and later when the tide suited you dragged him to the sea cave so his accident would be discovered at morning and not at night. Silence crashed over us. Even the sea seemed to pause. Gareth Pike's face had drained of color. Prove it. Morel did not blink. I found, in the groove of the study hearth, a faint crescent of nacre mother of pearl from the cane's pommel where it clipped stone. In your bedroom ashtray, a scrap of brown parcel string stiff with varnish, the same varnish that seals antique canes. On your cuff, a thread of red silk from Miss Lyle's cane wrapping. On your shoe welt, the salt from the boathouse, and on your soul his voice, suddenly, was terrible in its softness. The arithmetic of pride. Vera Lyle rose, eyes blazing. You stole from the charity and from me. I stole what I needed, Pike snarled, mask cracking. He made me a criminal first, pushing impossible targets, squeezing budgets till good people lost their jobs. I only took what I could justify. And murder? Lady Helena's voice was ice. Can you justify that also? He turned on her. You should thank me. He was preparing a spectacle. Your records, your shame, your child paraded like evidence. He would have broken you to break us all. Helena did not flinch. He had already done his worst, and still, it did not kill him. Pike's breath came ragged. I never meant it should have been simple. The fall, the tide. If Sandford hadn't, if the storm, he stopped, realizing how far he had spoken himself into truth. Morel stepped closer. If you are rational enough to balance books, you are rational enough to accept consequence. Do not make me speak of your steps again. How you borrowed the key, how you muffled the bell, how you set the clock, how you struck a man from the side your left swing against his left temple, how you broke the stick and left it like a theater prop. Pike's shoulders sagged as if something within had turned to ash. When he spoke, it was almost gentle. What would you have me say? That I am sorry? I am not. I am only sorry I did not plan better. Felix Arden, who had been silent from shock, whispered, God help you. No, Pike said. God help you. You all swallowed his righteousness for years. You liked the gloss of it. You liked the dinners and the speeches. But you didn't look at the numbers. I did. Morel said. And then you looked at the letters. The black wax was your flourish. The cane was your certainty. Both betrayed you. Pike's glance flicked to the door. Leo moved one step, blocking his line. For a heartbeat I thought Pike would run. Instead he straightened, smoothed his cuff, and faced Lady Helena. I spared you worse, he said. Remember that. Helena's gaze did not alter. I will remember everything. He looked at Morel. You cannot detain me. The tide is down. The police are hours away. True, Morel said. But honor is already here. Leo took another step, and I moved with him. Pike saw too. Men who had known bad seas and worse nights. He looked away first. I will go to the study, he said. I will wait there. I expect a fair hearing. You shall have one, Morel said. Pike walked out. The door clicked very softly behind him. For a long moment, none of us spoke. The lamps hummed. Somewhere, a clock ticked the correct time. Lady Helena's hands loosened. Vera Lyle sat down as if the bones had gone from her body. Rowena March pressed a hand to her eyes. Leo, who had been holding his breath, let it go. Clara Bream whispered, Sir, it is finished? Almost, Morel said. He turned to Lady Helena with a small, courtly bow. Madam, your private life is your own. What the world will know of it is a matter of law and papers, not of gossip. Captain Dane and I will say nothing. Her composure trembled, then steadied. Thank you. Morel looked into the coals. Murder is a terrible vulgarity, even when dressed with good reasons. It announces itself as necessity and reveals itself as vanity. Remember that. I walked with him to the hall. You knew after the clock, I said. I suspected, he replied. I knew after the mirror, the figurine, I said, smiling despite the night. 2 finger widths? He allowed himself the smallest shrug. Or, mon ami is a language. It sings when it is kept, it cries when it is broken. We stood by the open door. Outside, the causeway glittered wet and dark, half waiting for the morning. The sea had gentled itself to a rhythmic breathing. What happens now? I asked. Now, Morel said, we write our statements. And the tide goes out. It is the way of tides to return things to the world. Truth among them. He took up his hat, said it just so, and gave me a look that was nearly a smile. Come, Captain, he said, let us be tidy. And for the first time since I had set foot on that black rock, I felt the island ease its grip like a fist unclenching, while in the great, wind-polished darkness beyond, the sea kept time with the truth.